The distress beacon had been pulsing for 17 long cycles. Every few seconds, a red light blinked in the void above Terminus 4, like a dying star refusing to fade. The signal came from a Krell hunter ship, a vessel feared across the galaxy. Yet now it drifted in silence, its crew gone, its call unanswered. Captain Torvin stood on the command deck, staring at the holographic display. The beacon's rhythm echoed in his mind, steady and haunting. No one wanted to go near it. Not traders, not mercenaries, not even scavengers. Everyone knew the Krell did not send distress calls unless something had gone terribly wrong. Beside him, Prin, his Valkyrie communications officer, shifted nervously. His sensory stalks twitched as he replayed the last transmission. Static filled the air, broken by guttural words in Krell battlecant. The voice was panicked, choking, almost broken. She is not what the contract said. She is still smiling. Do not follow. Then silence. Torvin's weapons officer, Vec, muttered darkly. Delightful bedtime story, Captain. His forearms drummed against the console, but his eyes never left the blinking signal. Torvin kept his voice calm, though his stomach nodded. The Krell are apex predators. They hunt for sport, for honor, for money. They do not scare easily. Yet something on that planet made them abandon their ship. Something killed them. The contract was clear. Investigate. Confirm. Terminate if possible. Payment was enough to buy a small moon. The target was one human woman. Humans were not supposed to be dangerous. They were listed as Category 5 on the threat index. No claws, no armor, no venom, no psionics. Soft creatures from a mild world. The Krell had believed the same. That was why they sent hunters instead of exterminators. But the file told another story. The woman, Mira Delqua, had stolen a data core from the Proxian Syndicate. Inside were records of bribes, assassinations, and crimes spanning a century. She leaked it to 16 systems before anyone could stop her. The Syndicate wanted her erased. Quietly. Permanently. Torvin's crew did not like the mission. Prin whispered, "This feels like a mistake. The kind that gets crews killed." Vec asked, "Why are we here, Captain? Why not leave the beacon alone?" Torvin gave the only answer he could. Because refusal was not an option. The dropship descended through the atmosphere of Terminus 4. Forests stretched below, mountains rising in the distance, lakes glinting under the orange dwarf star. It looked peaceful. Safe. Torvin hated it immediately. They landed near the Krell vessel. The ramp was down, the ship intact, but empty. No bodies. No blood. No signs of struggle. Only silence. Vec found the weapons lockers stripped bare. They armed themselves to the teeth, he said. Then they left. Torvin opened the mission logs. The entries began with confidence. Target located. Pursuit initiated. Then came fear. Hunters missing. Helmets clawed from the inside. It is hunting us now. We are the prey. Torvin closed the log. His crew waited for orders. The beacon still pulsed above, a warning to anyone who dared to follow. And somewhere in the forest, a human woman was smiling. Captain Torvin and Vec moved carefully through the silent forest. Their shields hummed faintly, weapons ready. The Krell ship sat behind them, empty and waiting, but the real danger was ahead. The trees stretched tall, their branches blocking most of the fading light. No birds sang. No insects buzzed. The silence felt heavy, unnatural, like the forest itself was holding its breath. Vec scanned his tactical display. Thermal blooms, he muttered. Small signatures moving fast. Could be animals. Could be something else. Torvin's jaw tightened. Or bodies. They pressed forward, following the trail carved by the Krell hunters. The ground was scarred, branches broken, soil churned by heavy boots. Signs of pursuit. But there were no bodies, no blood, no signs of battle. Only emptiness. Then they found the first clue. A helmet lay half buried in the dirt. Torvin bent down, lifting it carefully. Inside, deep scratches ran across the inner surface. Claw marks. From the inside. Vex swore under his breath. What kind of prey claws its way out of its own armor? Torvin said nothing. He placed the helmet back on the ground and kept walking. The trail led deeper into the forest. The air grew colder, shadows stretching long. Every step felt wrong, like they were walking into a trap. Vex's fingers twitched near his rifle trigger. "Captain, this is madness. We should leave." Torvin's voice was steady, though his heart raced. "We need answers. The contract demands verification." They reached a clearing. The ground was scorched, trees flattened. Signs of a Krell camp. But the camp was abandoned. Weapons scattered. Supplies untouched. As if the hunters had fled in panic. Then came the sound. Faint. Musical. A whistle. Torvin froze. Vec raised his rifle, scanning the shadows. The tune was cheerful, light, completely wrong for the moment. It drifted through the trees, closer and closer. A figure appeared on the trail. Human. Female. Young. She walked with an easy stride, dirt and blood staining her clothes. A small pack hung from her shoulder. She kept whistling, calm and carefree, as if she were strolling through a marketplace instead of a battlefield. Torvin lifted his scope. Positive identification. Mira Delqua. The target. She stopped whistling. She stopped walking. Her eyes found Torvin, even though he was hidden behind the ship's hull. And she smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Hello up there," she called in perfect galactic common. "I've been waiting. Took you long enough." Vec hissed. "Captain, clear shot. She's standing in the open." Torvin's grip tightened on his rifle. But something in her smile made him hesitate. She looked tired. Human. Harmless. Yet the Krell hunters had died here. Mira tilted her head. The Krell were fun. Strong. Fast. But predictable. They hunted like predators. I taught them a lesson about humanity. She dropped her pack. From inside, she pulled a Krell combat knife, blade stained dark. "Souvenir," she said cheerfully. "I have 11 more." Vec whispered, "Impossible." Mira stepped forward. Her voice was calm, her eyes sharp. "Humans aren't strong. We aren't armored. We aren't fast. But we endure. We don't stop. And when cornered, we always choose violence." Torvin felt the forest tighten around him. The beacon pulsed above. And the most dangerous predator in the galaxy stood smiling in the clearing. The clearing was silent except for the faint hum of the crew's shields. Mira Delqua stood in the open, her smile sharp, her eyes steady. She looked small against the towering trees, but her presence filled the space like a storm waiting to break. Vec's voice was tight. "Captain, she wants us to shoot. She's daring us." His fingers twitched near the trigger. Torvin studied her carefully. She carried only the Krell knife, its blade dark with old blood. Yet she spoke with the confidence of someone who had already won. "You want to know how one human killed a team of hunters?" Mira asked. Her tone was calm, almost playful. "Very carefully. With patience. And by turning their instincts against them." She stepped forward. The forest seemed to lean closer, shadows stretching around her. "Humans are not strong like the Krell. We are not armored like the Draxen. We are not fast like the Valkyrie. But we endure. We chase. We corner. And when forced to choose between dying quietly or fighting back, her smile widened. We always choose violence. Vec hissed. Captain, this is madness. She's just one woman. Torvin's grip tightened on his rifle. His instincts screamed at him to fire, but another voice whispered caution. The Krell hunters had thought the same. They had believed strength and speed would win. Now their knives were trophies in her pack. Mira tilted her head. You have a choice. Kill me, and maybe you succeed. Maybe you don't. Either way, it will cost more than you're being paid. Or walk away. Tell your employers I'm dead. Show them some DNA. I have plenty of Krell material you can use. Her words hung heavy in the air. The beacon pulsed above, a reminder of what had already happened. Torvin asked quietly, why should I believe you would let us leave? Mira's smile softened, but her eyes stayed cold. Because I'm not a monster. I'm just tired of being hunted. The Krell came for me. I dealt with them. You came for me. I prefer not to deal with you the same way. Silence stretched. Vec's breathing grew harsh, his weapon trembling in his hands. Prin's voice crackled over the comms from orbit. Captain, time is running. Orders. Torvin looked at Mira. She stood calm, unarmed, fearless. The forest seemed to welcome her, shadows curling at her feet. He made his decision. We leave. Vec turned sharply. Captain. Now, Torvin said firmly. His voice carried the weight of survival. Mira watched them retreat. She did not move to stop them. She simply picked up her pack, slung it over her shoulder, and stepped back into the forest. Her whistle returned, cheerful and wrong, fading into the trees. Torvin's crew moved quickly to the dropship. No one spoke. No one dared. As the engines roared to life, Torvin glanced back one last time. At the edge of the clearing, Mira stood watching, still smiling. 3 days later, Captain Torvin's ship docked at Helio Station. The massive wheel of steel and light spun slowly in neutral space, a place where laws were weak and violence was common. It was the perfect meeting ground for syndicate business. Torvin had not spoken much during the journey. His crew sensed the weight of failure, but they knew better than to ask questions. Prin kept his sensory stalks low, worried. Vec spent hours in the armory, checking weapons they had never fired. Silence hung heavy over them all. A message waited in Torvin's private terminal. Docking Bay 72. 1 hour. Come alone. Torvin did not come alone. Vec followed at a distance, armed and ready. The bay was quiet, filled with shipping containers and cargo loaders. A poor place for an ambush, but perfect for a secret meeting. The syndicate representative was already there. She was Lorvaxian, reptilian in appearance, her scales shimmering under the harsh lights. She wore an expensive suit, cybernetic eyes clicking softly as they focused on Torvin. You returned without the target, she said coldly. The situation was more complicated than advertised, Torvin replied. His voice was calm, but his pulse raced. Complicated, she repeated, tasting the word like poison. The Krell said the same thing before they died. Yet here you stand, alive. Torvin kept his tone professional. The target demonstrated capabilities beyond the intelligence report. Engaging her would have meant unnecessary casualties. I made a tactical decision. The Lorvaxian's eyes narrowed. The contract specified termination. You agreed to those terms. I accepted a partial advance, Torvin said. Completion was required for the rest. Since I did not complete the job, I owe you nothing but an honest assessment. He had rehearsed this speech during the long jump home. Lies wrapped in fragments of truth. Enough to sound believable. She is not alone, Torvin continued. She has defenses in the forest. Traps. Possibly stolen military hardware. The Krell walked into it blind. They were slaughtered. We detected anomalies and withdrew. The Lorvaxian cybernetic eyes whirred. Sensors detected no such installations. Which suggests stealth technology. Very illegal. Very expensive. She paused. You are lying. Torvin's stomach tightened. Excuse me. You are lying, she said softly. Not about everything. But about something important. You encountered something that frightened you. Something you do not want to speak of. Torvin forced himself to stay calm. The target has unknown capabilities. That frightens any sensible person. Then you will return, she said. With proper support. Troops. Bombardment if needed. Mira Delqua dies. Those are your new orders. Torvin shook his head. I decline. The temperature in the bay seemed to drop. The Lorvaxian moved fast, pressing a plasma burner against his chest. You do not walk away from syndicate contracts. You took our money. You owe us results. If not results, then your corpse. Before Torvin could answer, a soft click echoed. Vec had raised his rifle. Step back from my captain, he said quietly. Or I paint this bay with your insides. Figures stepped from the shadows, syndicate killers, weapons raised. Torvin's heart sank. They were surrounded. And then, faint but clear, came a whistle. Cheerful. Wrong. Mira Delqua walked into the bay, smiling. The docking bay froze when Mira Delqua stepped inside. Her whistle echoed against the steel walls, cheerful and wrong. She looked ordinary, clean clothes, hair tied back, hands in her pockets. But her eyes carried something ancient, something that had already stared death in the face and laughed. The Lorvaxian syndicate agent recovered first. Her scales shimmered with anger. Kill her. Kill them all. Weapons rose. Triggers squeezed. Nothing happened. Mira tilted her head, smiling. Oh, did you actually try to fire? That's adorable. She pulled a small device from her pocket, wires and lights blinking across its surface. Modern weapons are convenient. Electronic triggers, wireless systems. Very efficient. Also very easy to hack. Confusion spread through the killers. One dropped his rifle and pulled a backup pistol, old, chemical propellant, no electronics. He fired once. Mira moved. It was faster than Torvin could follow. One moment she stood 5 meters away. The next she was behind the man, her arm locked around his throat. A wet crunch echoed, and he collapsed. The others rushed her. What followed was not a fight. It was a demonstration. Mira flowed between attackers like water, her movements smooth and precise. She struck knees, throats, joints, always the weak points. A twist sent a Ganthran twice her size crashing into a cargo container, denting the steel. Another fell with a single elbow strike. Torvin counted the seconds. 4. 6. 10. By 14 seconds, 12 trained killers lay broken across the bay floor. Silence followed. Heavy. Crushing. The Lorvaxian stared, her cybernetic eyes whirring in disbelief. What are you? She whispered. Mira brushed imaginary dust from her jacket. I'm someone who got tired of running. You want me dead? Fine. But it will cost you everything. And you still won't succeed. Her voice was calm, but her words carried weight. The syndicate will keep sending hunters. I'll keep killing them. At some point, the cost will outweigh the benefit. That's economics. Smart people cut their losses. She turned to Torvin. You tried to warn me off instead of attacking. I appreciate that. Professional courtesy. Torvin swallowed hard. You followed us. Obviously, she said with a grin. You think I'd let potential threats wander off? I hitched a ride in your cargo bay. Nice ship. Needs better security. Vec made a strangled sound, half laughter, half horror. Mira faced the Lorvaxian again. Here's what happens next. You go back to your bosses and tell them Mira Delqua is off the board. Not dead. Just too expensive to kill. If they insist, I'll start working my way up the chain until I reach whoever makes the real decisions. Then we'll have a very direct conversation. The Lorvaxian's scales shifted colors, fear mixing with anger. She stepped back, her killers groaning on the floor. I will relay your message. Mira's smile sharpened. And tell them something else. Humans are not prey. We hide our teeth until provoked. But when we bite, her eyes burned cold. We bite hard. The bay was silent as she walked away, whistling that same cheerful tune. The docking bay smelled of smoke and fear. Syndicate killers lay broken across the floor, groaning or silent. Mira Delqua had already walked away, her cheerful whistle fading into the noise of the station. Captain Torvin stood frozen, his heart still racing. Vec lowered his rifle slowly, his arms trembling. Captain, what just happened? He whispered. Torvin forced himself to breathe. We survived, he said. That's all that matters. The Lorvaxian agent stepped carefully among her fallen soldiers. Her scales shifted colors, flashing confusion and anger. She looked at Torvin with cold eyes. You will regret this, she hissed. But she did not attack. She turned and left the bay, her footsteps sharp against the steel floor. Torvin knew the truth. They were not safe here. Not on Helio Station. Not anywhere near Syndicate territory. Vec, he said firmly. We leave. Now. They moved quickly back to the ship. Prin met them at the airlock, his sensory stalks drooping low. Captain, what happened? Torvin shook his head. Later. Prepare for launch. Within minutes, the ship detached from the docking clamps. Engines roared, pushing them clear of the station's gravity well. The stars opened before them, endless and silent. Torvin sat in the command chair, staring at the void. His crew worked quietly, each one aware of the danger still hanging over them. The Syndicate would not forgive failure. Contracts were blood oaths in their world. Then Prin spoke again. Captain, there is a data packet in our buffer. It arrived while we were on the station. No sender identification. Encrypted with military protocols. Torvin frowned. Can you decrypt it? Prin's stalks twitched. Already did. It is a bank transfer. Significant amount. Torvin leaned forward. How significant? Prin hesitated. Enough to pay off the ship. Enough to retire comfortably for several years. Silence filled the bridge. Vec finally spoke. Captain, did she just pay us? Torvin stared at the screen. A note was attached to the transfer. 2 simple lines, professional courtesy. Stay smart. Stay alive. He leaned back slowly, his mind racing. Mira Delqua had not only spared them, she had rewarded them. Paid them for not killing her. Vec let out a low laugh, half disbelief, half relief. That's the strangest contract completion I've ever heard of. Torvin thought about the forest, the Krell knives, the smile that had haunted him since Terminus 4. He thought about the Syndicate killers lying broken in the bay. And he thought about the lesson Mira had taught them all. Make a note in the logs, Torvin said quietly. Effective immediately. We do not accept contracts on human targets. Ever. Prin nodded. Understood, Captain." The ship jumped to hyperspace, stars stretching into lines of light. Torvin sat in silence, wondering how long it would take before the rest of the galaxy learned the same lesson. Humans looked soft. They acted harmless. But underneath was something ancient, patient, and terrifying. Persistence hunters. Endurance predators. A species that refused to give up. And somewhere out there, Mira Delqua was still smiling. The ship drifted through hyperspace, stars stretched into endless lines of light. Captain Torvin sat in silence, replaying every moment since Terminus 4. The forest. The knives. The smile. The syndicate ambush. And Mira Delqua walking through it all like death wrapped in human skin. Vec sat in the armory, polishing weapons he had not fired. His hands moved quickly, but his eyes were distant. Prin worked at his station, sensory stalks drooping lower with each passing cycle. The crew felt it too, the weight of what they had seen. Torvin finally spoke. "We survived an encounter with the most dangerous predator in the galaxy." Prin looked up nervously. "The Syndicate?" Torvin shook his head. "No. A human who decided she was done being prey." The words hung heavy in the air. Humans were supposed to be harmless. Soft creatures from a mild world. Yet one woman had killed an entire Krell hunter team, dismantled syndicate assassins, and walked away smiling. Torvin thought about the Krell logs. "It is hunting us now. We are the prey." The hunters had believed their strength and speed would protect them. They had been wrong. Humans were different. They were endurance predators. Persistence hunters. A species that did not stop, did not quit, did not surrender. They had climbed to the top of their food chain not through claws or armor, but through stubborn refusal to give up. Mira Delqua was proof of that truth. She had shown the galaxy what happened when humans were pushed too far. She had taught a lesson the Krell learned too late, and the Syndicate was only beginning to understand. Torvin leaned back in his chair. "Make sure the logs are clear. Effective immediately, we do not accept contracts on human targets. Ever." Prin nodded quickly. "Understood, Captain." Vec finally spoke, his voice low. "Do you think the rest of the galaxy will learn the same lesson?" Torvin stared at the stars. "Eventually. Some lessons must be learned the hard way." He imagined the beacon still pulsing above Terminus 4. A warning to anyone reckless enough to chase her. Do not follow. But someone would. The Syndicate had deep pockets. They would send more hunters, more killers, more ships. And Mira would keep teaching the same lesson, one body at a time. Torvin shivered. He had seen her smile. He had felt the weight of her words. He knew the truth now. Humans were not prey. They were the thing prey should fear. The galaxy thought humans were soft. Friendly. Harmless. But underneath that mask was something ancient, patient, and terrifying. Something that endured. Something that fought back. And somewhere out there, Mira Delqua was still smiling. The ship moved through hyperspace, leaving Helios Station far behind. Captain Torvin sat alone in his quarters, staring at the stars beyond the viewport. His crew worked quietly, each one carrying the weight of what they had seen. None of them spoke of Mira Delqua, but her presence lingered in every silence. The Krell beacon still pulsed in orbit above Terminus 4. A warning. A message. Do not follow. Yet Torvin knew others would ignore it. The Syndicate had deep pockets. They would send more hunters, more killers, more ships. And Mira would keep teaching the same lesson, one body at a time. Torvin thought about her smile. Calm. Cold. Unafraid. A smile that had broken the Krell, that had silenced Syndicate assassins, that had made him choose retreat over suicide. It was not the smile of prey. It was the smile of a predator who had decided she was done running. Humans were supposed to be harmless. That was the lie the galaxy believed. But underneath their soft skin and friendly faces was something older, something patient, something terrifying. Persistence hunters. Endurance predators. A species that refused to quit. Mira Delacroix was proof. She had shown the galaxy what happened when humans were pushed too far. She had turned hunters into prey, killers into victims, contracts into warnings. And she had walked away smiling. Torvin leaned back, closing his eyes. He had made his choice. His crew would never take another contract on a human target. Not after this. Not after seeing what one woman could do. Some lessons had to be learned the hard way. The Krell had learned too late. The Syndicate was learning now. And soon, the rest of the galaxy would understand. Humans were not prey. They were the thing prey should fear. The stars stretched endlessly before them, silent and cold. Somewhere out there, Mira Delacroix was still moving, still smiling, still teaching the galaxy that humans were not weak. They were dangerous. They were unstoppable. And the beacon kept pulsing in the void, a rhythm that carried across space. Do not follow. Do not follow. Do not follow.